start counting down just shortly to the end and we'll shut the glass door.
Okay.
There's a lot of rabbit coming through.
I'll apologise in advance, I might need to step out. It's
Yeah, no
not
problem.
because of anything.
Okay. It's good to know in advance.
We're like,
Okay, fantastic. Okay, hello everyone. My name is Yekemi Otaru, and I work for a company called Doqaru, and we're based in Aberdeen. I say I work for the company. To be honest, I kind of own the company actually, and there's 7 of us currently in the business. Today I want to talk about adopting social selling techniques and how that plays into your digital marketing strategy. The reason that this is important for us is because we started out as a sales and marketing consultancy, but we've ultimately evolved into what we're calling a sales enablement partner, because we're seeing that sales and marketing, you can't really do one without the other. And the whole drive, in fact, if you can solve this problem, you're probably going to be a billionaire. How do you align sales and marketing? So instead of actually adding to the problem by calling ourselves a sales and marketing consultancy, we've decided to become a sales enablement company. And so a lot of work has gone into doing some research and understanding how marketing teams can actually support sales, because that's ultimately what most businesses are in the market to do, is to sell something. But first of all, you might be wondering what Doqaru means, right? It's a bit of a random word, and it actually doesn't mean anything. But it's worth telling you that my business partner is Sarah Downs, and we started out with the name Doqaru. That's what we wanted to be called, which is our surnames put together, Downs and Otaru, right? So we started out with Doqaru. And then being a good marketing person, I did some due diligence and just made sure that this name doesn't mean something rude in another language, you know, that kind of thing. And then I found out that it actually means dirty in Japanese. So I sent her a WhatsApp, like a WhatsApp message with a screenshot, and I said, well, this is not really the kind of company we're looking to start, is it? So we need to revisit the name. So long story short, we changed the T to a Q because that aligned with some of the things that we were looking at. For instance, Q looks like the golden ratio in math, where, you know, when 2 things come together, they become greater than them separately. So that's just a little bit of a story, and it's relevant to what I'm going to talk about. About a year ago, we then found out that Doqaru is a Japanese word that means where is. And I love when words just come together. So I'm a bit of a wordsmith, and I thought, oh, this is amazing. And so we became driven by things like asking fantastic questions. We don't have to have all the answers, but asking great questions of ourselves and of our clients. Where is the value? Where is the vision? Where is the opportunity? Where is the impact? And these questions, I believe, can really drive more alignment between sales and marketing. So coming to social selling, you might be wondering what it is, and people have different definitions of it. But I think it's a sustained and consistent engagement with people online, people that you have targeted who fit a certain buyer persona or target audience. It's not about throwing ads out there or sponsoring posts. It's really about identifying these people and engaging with them in actually just a normal conversation, building relationships with them, and providing them with the content and information that they need when they need it, rather than stuffing it down your throat, right? Because this is what you're trying to sell right now. And that's where the world's heading. And this has even increased in importance in the last 2.5 years, where people have been at home and people are online looking for engagement, looking to reach different types of audiences. So social selling is really the art of not a business per se, but the employees of the business engaging with potential prospects online, having conversations, building relationships that ultimately can lead to a sale, it can lead to collaborations, to partnerships, and what have you. So that is what social selling is. And when you even look at kind of the top B2B marketers, a lot of them are saying that, in fact, when you look at Gartner, for instance, it says 80% of your buyer and seller interactions are going to be on digital channels by 2025. And this is already happening. The buyers are ahead of us as sellers. The buyers are online looking for information. And in fact, only 5% of the sales process is going to be an interaction with the seller. Most of the buyer's journey is happening online. And by 2025, 80% of it will be happening online. So if you are a marketing team trying to support your sales team, you need to know this, because these are some of the things that they are going to have to adapt to, and they need you to support them to do that. When you look at Marketo, it's saying that, part of this, I guess, selling is part of the whole digital transformation. And so being able to deliver content in a timely manner when the person needs it on the platform where they are is going to be really important. So it's just some of the quotes from different kind of prominent B2B marketing companies and people around how social selling and digital transformation is very much part and parcel of what we need to be thinking about when it comes to sales and marketing. So I always say sales and marketing shouldn't be in series. It's not sales does something, then marketing does something, or marketing does something, and then sales does something. They need to operate in parallel to really have impact, especially if you're going to be ready in 2025 when most of the transactions are happening on digital channels. So I wrote an article a few years ago that talked about strategic marketing when I was, I guess, a lone marketer in a huge company. And very often I felt like marketing was living in a fantasy world. We were obsessed with this, followers and how many likes and all this stuff. And the main, sales operations on the ground was just another planet, right? We didn't really understand what was going on. They didn't care about the same things that we cared about. So if marketing teams continue to live in this fantasy world, which is quite separate from the actual sales operations, you're not going to have any impact. And that's probably something as marketers that you're familiar with, this sort of conversations going on. So how do we have more impact then? What can we do to make sure that we're relevant to the conversation and actually seen as a partner when it comes to driving sales and business growth? So I like to go back to my great questions. Where is the purpose? I believe this is one of the first questions that marketing teams should be asking of the business overall, not just of the sales team, actually. So we go back to some of the things you probably know, and we tend to forget it when we're creating our marketing plans and our strategy. What are the business goals over the next 12 months? And it could be a variety of things. I've just put a list of some of the things that could be part and parcel of what your business is trying to achieve. They could be wanting to become a marketing leader in a certain region, maybe enter a new region, maybe they want to become more profitable. It could be more around employees and wanting to be one of the best places to work. It could be that they want to take on more sustainable business practices and really care about this kind of maybe energy transition. Really understand what the business cares about right now before you start creating a marketing strategy, and that will make you more relevant. Whatever that business goal is, you need to align and support the growth, wherever that's going to be coming from in the business, the client, which is, the person who's really paying the bills, the community, and that's becoming more and more important. You can't really operate in a silo. Every business is operating in some kind of community with people and with groups that have a stake in what it is that you're doing. The employees of the organization, and indeed the environment. So whatever that business goal is, because it's different for every company, and it does tend to change maybe from financial year to financial year, depending on what's going on in the greater world. So we've asked, where is the purpose? One of the biggest questions that social selling is asking is, where is the relationship? Gone are the days where someone just sees an ad and clicks on something and then they buy. I mean, it happens sometimes, but rarely happens. Most people want to have a relationship with you in some shape or form. They want to feel that they know you. They want to feel that they understand what your company is all about. They want to feel that you have the answers to many of the questions that they're having. That you're providing information as and when they need it. So one of the companies that we work with is VARTA, and you may know VARTA, they're a German brand. And we've been working with them over the last 12 months around different sales competencies in their organization. With our data-driven tool, we administered it to their sales team. I think it was a 12-person sales team, so one of their sales team. They're a massive company. And the social selling competency was about 33%. So it meant that within the sales team, the ability to connect with potential clients online, to start conversations, build rapport, wasn't really strong, right? It's fair to say. As of February last year, it wasn't really a strong competency. And it's something that they already recognized, And that's why we're brought in to try and support this. But it's amazing when you also have the data to back it up. So I'm not just going and telling you you're rubbish, but you actually have some data. So it's always helpful. And then over the last 12 months, there's been a lot of work around building that competency. And that's been through workshops, through coaching, through providing the right technology, understanding how platforms like LinkedIn work, because that's, I suppose, the main B2B platform right now. So over a year later, we go back and we do what we call a checkpoint. So we check a series of competencies. This is just one. And we look at what the changes are. So you hope to see overall improvements. But it's not uncommon to see some kind of, some things worsen. When you're focusing on a particular competency, for instance, it might be that another competency gets slightly worse. So it's nothing to panic over. But overall, you want to see improvement. Unfortunately, with this particular salesperson, the social selling competency increased dramatically over the last kind of 12 months with all the kind of support and work that he put into getting better at this. And it's closely related to his relationship building competency, right? So the relationship building competency was around about 26, 27, this is out of 100, and has improved to nearly 50. So there is a relationship between social selling, which is that online relationship building capability, and relationship building. Your ability to build rapport, your ability to kind of see things through the eyes of your customer or your prospect. Okay? So I like to draw people. I'm not very artistic. So before I hired a graphic designer, I had stick people. So I'm really glad that I've hired Sarah Dickey, who helps me look a little bit better on these slides. So social selling shortens the sales cycle. That's one of the things that we've seen. So it shortens the sales cycle because that relationship building is happening. You're doing your social selling. It means that what you're doing is you're shortening the distance between each touch point, each communication point. We ran a survey in February of this year, and we surveyed 104 sales managers and business owners. So business owners that are also doing the sales for their organization. And we were able to answer some of the questions that we had around social selling and the connection between sales and marketing. One of the things that we found out was that even though 58% of the sales managers said that they still prefer to have in-person interactions, it was really hard to get that. And you can understand over the last 2.5 years, it's been really hard to get that. But when we look at data from the buyers, so looking at some of the data that comes from companies like HubSpot and LinkedIn, you see that 41% of buyers say that they'll buy from you even if they've never met you. So I'm pretty sure that this number has gone up. I don't know what the number was, say, in 2019 or in 2018. But as of today, 41% of them are saying they don't really need to meet you to buy from you. So half of the sales managers and in smaller companies, and I've kind of qualified what I mean by smaller companies, companies that are kind of £1 million and below, they were closing deals in 1 to 2 calls. And the reason behind that was these smaller companies tended to have closer relationships with their prospects. It tended to be, maybe a business owner with a network and was doing just far more work in connecting, going to meetings and networking, sharing content online, just a mix of several things. Because social selling is definitely the way to go, but I'm not saying that you don't do in-person meetings, you don't do your emailing, but not doing social selling at all is going to make your sales cycle far longer than it needs to be. So what's the implication? Building relationships online is growing more and more important, and just following traditional routes like depending on ads and your email campaigns is not going to be enough when you're pulling together your marketing strategy. Sales cycles are shorter, but ultimately you need to be providing the information that the buyer needs when they need it. So we all understand customer journey, right? And it's that timely delivery of content. You've got, depending on how you see your customer journey, I typically see it as the awareness stage, the consideration stage, and the decision stage. So if someone is at the awareness stage of their journey, they know there's a problem, but they don't really know what the problem is. They know things could be better, but they don't really know what the problem is. And that kind of buyer will need a different kind of content. If you are offering a demo to this buyer, it's just falling on deaf ears. A demo for what? I don't actually know what's wrong yet. So the sort of content that you're sharing with this person is very different. It's more exploratory. It's more maybe storytelling to highlight what could be wrong. And then you have the consideration stage where they now know what's going wrong, but they have a few options. Do we hire someone? Do we outsource it? Do we buy a new piece of kit? What do we do to solve this problem? And finally, decision stage. They're ready to buy. They're now just looking for the right person, the right vendor. So you see how the content is different throughout. And for you to be there in real time, you have to be doing social selling. And that's your sales teams are out there having conversations, building relationships. And as a marketing team, you need to have the appropriate content to help them to share with these buyers at the time they need it, not when you think they need it or when you're running a special campaign. I hope that makes sense. And finally, social selling allows you to focus on reaching decision makers. So on platforms like LinkedIn, you can, view the company page of the company that you're looking to target. You can see who works there and so on. But the beauty of it is you're not just reaching the decision makers. You can actually reach people at all levels, because apart from the decision makers, you've got your influencers, your gatekeeper, and they will need also some relationship building. So with social selling, you can achieve all these things. So, question on everyone's mind, where's the money, right? So, social selling sounds great. Yeah, you see some stats, buyers are going to be online, great. But does it actually generate leads? Does it actually make any money? One of the questions that we asked 104 sales managers was, what is your main challenge right now, right? And just to give you some context, we administered this survey between November and December of last year. So just to give you an idea when. So you can see, well, money's on everyone's mind, right? Sales managers are saying, actually, generating enough leads is it's concerning me right now. I'm not closing enough leads. So it's one thing to generate leads, but are they actually landing, right? And then even the existing customers that they have, they're worried that they can go elsewhere. The beauty of social selling is that it can help with all these things, because you can generate leads, you can continue to interact with existing customers, so you're top of mind, you're adding value even while they're in contract, right? You're not sort of doing what some companies do, is once they win you over, then they don't speak to you anymore after that. But with social selling and with the force of your sales team, and not just the sales team, the entire organization, you can really begin to add additional value, which reduces the likelihood that this particular client is going to go elsewhere. So, sales Sally, I always like to have a female salesperson because we're underrepresented. So yeah, you can see sales managers say that the biggest challenge is generating enough leads, right? And what I loved the most about the data that we gathered was the people who were exceeding their sales targets were the same people who said that they were using social selling and social media platforms, particularly LinkedIn, at least daily. And people who said they didn't reach their sales target were more likely to say that they don't use social platforms at all in many cases. And some of them said, oh, once a month, that you go on there and just do a couple of things. So there is a strong link between the use of social selling and social media techniques in this day and age and the likelihood that you're actually going to reach quota when it comes to sales. This is to give you an idea of the sort of things that the salespeople are thinking about. And if the marketing strategy isn't including this, isn't trying to support this and provide enough material and ammunition and messaging around social selling, then you can see that you're out of sync. You're not catering to the concerns of the sales teams.
Can I just ask what the percentage refers to, the 52.2?
So 52%, that's the number of people that said that that exceeded their sales target and said that they were also using social media at least daily.
Okay, so 47.8 said that they didn't, but they...
No, so I'll just break it down. So there are the different groups. So 52.2 said they use it at least daily, and then we had, I think it was 31% that said they used it weekly, and then we had, and so on. So,
sorry for interrupting.
No, it's fine. I just didn't want to bombard everyone with data. But there's a link to the research, which you can download for free. I'll show you at the end. And finally, this data at the bottom is actually not from our research. It's from LinkedIn that says leaders in social selling, so people that are doing social selling really well, attract 45% more sales and are 51% more likely to reach quota. So that's to achieve the target that's been set for them. Okay. So the implication of this is social selling approaches help with lead qualifications. I mean, once you're having that back and forth discussion with a prospect, you understand whether this is actually a lead that your company can cater to, whether it's the right fit for your organization, and establishing a framework and tools that help to measure those touch points It was really helpful. So over time, you will understand how long your sales cycle really is and how long it takes a client to go, or a prospect to go from, that awareness stage, for instance, to consideration stage. You can develop a strategy that then aligns with what the sales team is actually concerned with in this day and age and the techniques that they're using. So I did a little experiment. So this is my data. Social selling generates leads. And what I've done is I've gone back to my LinkedIn activity from January 1st till the end of April. And I've put out 56 posts. And you feel free to go to my LinkedIn profile. My posts are not all business posts. My posts are actually quite personal. I talk about my leadership journey and being an entrepreneur. I've come from an engineering background to marketing to being an entrepreneur. I'm also a fashion designer, long story. So, so my posts are quite varied, but that's how you build relationships, right? You don't just go and talk about business and what you're selling all day, right? So there's a whole art behind that. So anyway, the 56 posts have altogether generated about over 300,000 views. And I've put earned media. So what this represents is if I was going to pay for an ad on LinkedIn and generate that kind of, that number of views, this is what I would need to pay LinkedIn, right? That's what I would need to pay to generate that number of eyeballs on my posts. So it gives you an idea. That's my engagement rate. Average engagement is around 1.5, something like that. And I've put the qualified leads. So this is not all the leads, but these are the leads that are actually qualified, where I understand that we can actually cater to this. And this is the value of that. This is just me over 4 months. And to be honest, January and February are quite rubbish for lead generation. So that's mine. So imagine if my team of 7, so we're not a big company, and the value of a lead within my organization is anywhere from £7,000 to about £10,000. So like one lead's right about that. So you can put your number in there to figure out. But if we all did it all year, then this is the value of the qualified leads that we would get just from LinkedIn alone. This is not to do with any other type of channel. So, things from our partners, from going to networking events, from running webinars, which we do. This is what we would generate in terms of qualified leads if every one of us over a 12-month period actually did the same as I was doing. Okay? So refresh your marketing strategy and make sure that you are clear on what the purpose of the organization is, not just the sales team, but the business as a whole. And don't work in series. Don't say, oh, sales need to do something, then we'll just wait until they finish before we do our bit. It's in parallel. And that really comes from driving communication and really being close to the sales team. Delivering timely content, so really understanding the kind of content that the team needs and when they need it. Make it easy for them to find that content and make sure that you are hearing from them what they're hearing from the prospect. So the kind of feedback and questions that they're getting, use those to develop your content marketing plan. And measure, monitor and measure, because at the end of the day, a lot of what we're saying are based on a set of assumptions or based on what somebody else did, and it will be different for your organization. But if you don't monitor and measure it, then you won't know. Thank you. Feel free to just scan that. That will take you straight to the report, which we generated, the one I was speaking about, 104 respondents. And it's a free report. Please feel free to grab a copy of that. I'm open to any questions.
I've got a microphone at the back as well if anyone wants to ask any questions from the audience.
Yes, one over there.
Do you want us to introduce yourselves as well?
I would love to,
Okay.
if you did.
I'm Pamela Bailey. I'm from a communications consultancy in Glasgow. Been in that for a long time. Love it. No arguments. Had kind of 2 parts question, I suppose. First of all, I was interested, have you kind of evolved a different approach and kind of responsiveness from clients depending on whether they are services oriented or product kind of related? And also one about traditionally, it's less so now, but traditionally there has been, shall we say, territorial issues between sales and marketing in large organizations. I'm interested to know what the response has been, your experience with those. So kind of 2 parts to that question, if I may. Thanks.
Yeah, fantastic. Great question. The first part of your question around services and products is an interesting one. I mean, most of our clients are product. However, because they're mainly manufacturing and engineering, it tends to be long sales cycles. And that, you know, those are really the areas that we can see some impact in the work that we do, right? So where, you know, it could be an 18-month sales cycle, you know, you're selling, like VARTA sells, you know, batteries, and most of the time they're custom made, they're putting them in vacuum cleaners and whatnot. So it does tend to be that long sales cycle type client, and products tend to be longer usually than service companies. The territorial question is interesting, and I think I've got different views of it because I have worked in large organizations. I worked for GE, I've worked for Schlumberger and Lloyd's Register, and I've seen that, right? I've lived it. What I'm enjoying right now is being a marketing person and being able to talk to sales teams. And now maybe it's because I'm not in their organization, so they're nice to me. I don't know, but being able to talk to them, and I think explaining where marketing is coming from, I found some really great reception from that. And I think part of the issue with sales and marketing is this bit of where does it start, where does it end? You know, when is it our turn, or that, you know, that's we should be doing that, and so on. But I do think that the sales teams need to drive it, because at the end of the day, they're the ones who are going to be client facing, they're the ones who are getting the feedback. So I think in organizations where the sales team is actually driving it and coming back to the marketing team with feedback and saying, when we talk to clients, or when we attended this event, these are the things that clients were saying. This is what we're seeing. This is the sort of information that we need to provide. We need more videos about that. We need more demos about that. And then the marketing team takes that and creates that and provides it. That's when I see it working, and those kind of gray lines kind of disappear a little bit. But like I said, I'll be a billionaire if I knew exactly how to sort that. It's an age-old challenge, and we're hoping to support in kind of, helping the gap kind of close a little bit.
Any other?
Yeah. My name's Ewan Anderson. I'm a marketing for Eden Scott, a recruitment company. So it was just to go back a couple of slides. It was the metric that you measured between the, you know, before in February and then March.
Oh, yes.
What were the metrics you were using there?
So we've got a data-driven tool that we're accredited to use. It was developed in the US, and so there are different, different points under each one. So if we start with the social selling will measure things like, it will ask, you know, are they on platforms like LinkedIn? You know, are they connected to their prospects and their client? How regularly are they engaging with kind of insightful content? Things like video proficiency. How comfortable are they on video and in virtual meetings? Those kind of things. So that's what it will measure. So if they say they're not comfortable or somewhat comfortable and so on, all that adds up to provide this competency score. So what this shows is that, you know, 13 months later or so, there was definitely more confidence around using it. They had felt like they were now having more relevant conversations. They were more confident in connecting to decision makers within those organizations. And then the relationship building speaks more about building rapport and the regularity of that rapport with whoever, the prospect or the client. So there's different, usually like between 5 and 7 different things it's measuring under each competency. Overall, this tool measures 21 competencies, and it's quite robust.
They aligned the sales figures at the back of that as well.
Yeah. So, you know, the tool will actually tell you that these are the gaps. So for individual salespeople now, it will tell you these are the gaps, and it will say if you're able to close these gaps, you will see, you know, a 21% increase in your sales. So it's that precise what this tool can do. Yeah.
Any other questions?
Thank you so much. I'm Veronica from Zoopla, the property portal. I'm interested to hear your view on planning your content for LinkedIn, let's say, and do you target that for someone who is in a consideration phase or awareness phase? So can you talk us through a little bit about your approach and how you mix the personal touch and the personal story with the business, and kind of what your thought process is on that?
Is this for a company or me individually?
For you personally, as building your own brand. So this is not necessarily for sales or marketing. I know that's the topic, but I find it quite interesting the way you kind of use the personal touch and your personal stories to kind of bring the persona into the conversation, and that really connects to people. So for me, yeah, I would like to hear more about that.
Okay, thank you. So I mean, my journey, like I said, I have 2 engineering degrees, and part of getting into marketing was me living on LinkedIn. You know, as a non-marketing person, I was in an engineering role. I had 10 engineers reporting to me, but I wanted to move to marketing, which is really difficult. And so I say that because I'm basically confessing why I love LinkedIn so much in particular, because what I ended up doing was joining different forums and groups on there and learning from, like, you know, getting to know the VP of marketing at IBM and Dell and companies like that. And so one of the things I learned from engaging with those people, in fact, the lady in particular, Ali Solly, who was social media manager at SAS, you might know, a software development company in the US. This was in 2011 or 12, when having a social media manager was quite a novelty. Like, people didn't have social media manager. It was like the PA would just do a bit of social media on the side. So I got to meet her, and I interviewed her for a book I later wrote in 2016. And she told me about the 411 rule, and that's kind of my starting point when it comes to my personal content. So with the 411 rule, what she was saying to me was, if you are going to put 6 posts out this month, for instance, 4 of those posts shouldn't be selling anything. 4 of those posts should be inspirational, personal. I mean, you have to decide what's too personal for you, because I know there's always questions about how personal do you get. But those 4 should really be inspirational. So for me, I talk about my career journey, switching careers, leadership, parenting, managing a team, and so on. So from there, what happens is the people that engage with that have either similar experiences with me or similar values, and I connect to them. And often people who I'm not connected to will engage, and then I have a reason to get in touch with them in the LinkedIn messages and say, you know, thank you for engaging with my post. I'd love to connect with you. So at that point, no one's selling anything. We've connected because we have similar values. We obviously have shared experiences, and you never know what comes from that. Then one of those posts can be a business post. So I run regular webinars, and so I'm entitled to, once in a while, post about a webinar I'm running and ask people to sign up. And then finally, the last one of those posts could be just a fun post, and people would share, you know, it could be a poll or something funny, but it's how you would have a natural conversation with someone. If you were sitting with someone in a cafe and they were just talking about their business and telling you about their products and services, you would be bored and you would never want to see them again. So I don't know why people do that online, where they're just constantly droning on about their company and the products and the services. It's the same thing as building relationships, I suppose, making this out to making the sale. But I understand if you're a salesperson and you're not reaching your quota that month, and you're absolutely desperate, social selling is not the way to get the last few dollars, because, you know, it's like, oh, that terrible voice. So I plan my content with kind of looking at personal events happening. I look at what's going on in my network, what people are kind of struggling with that I can resonate with, and I use Trello to plan. So every month I'll sit with my social media manager and we talk about what's going on that month, what I want to talk about, and we just plan it. And if I need some graphics made, that's kind of what I do. I hope that makes sense.
That actually concludes our time, I'm afraid. Final question. Sales and marketing working in parallel. Who knows best?
Oh, we're getting on so well.
I'm kidding. Yekemi Otaru, thank you very much.
Thank you. Appreciate it. So what's your question?
So I want to ask, I'm a digital marketing person, and I do social media. How do I sell this idea to our sales team that they need to spend time on social media and curating these, what do you call them, relationships with their clients, and how much time do they need to get those kind of results?
Yeah, it's a good
As
question.
you probably know, salespeople are always busy.
Yeah, they're always busy. But do you know currently, like, I think one of the first starting points is I would just chat to them and ask, what are they challenged with just now? Like, what is their challenge? You know, and just be genuinely interested in what the challenge right now. Because if they don't feel that getting new leads and their sales cycle is really a challenge, and they're just going to be like, well, why do we have to do this additional thing? But if you talk to them and they say, gosh, I'm really struggling, like the leads are, I'm struggling to close them, or I can't get this guy to reply to my email, And then you say, well, you can then say, I went to this event and I'm quite interested in what this lady is saying. I mean, she'll be happy to talk to you, or I can send you some information and you can share
I'm
with
going
them.
to use definitely your...
Yeah, but I think if you start with asking them, what's your challenge? How can we help you? How can we make this sales cycle shorter?
There'll be part number 2, right?
Yeah.
For me, from a marketing point of view, because, so say for example, if we do SEO and we do social media, and like I've got the knowledge about SEO, but they don't have the in-depth knowledge.
Yeah.
For my role, for them to support them would be have that knowledge available very quickly.
Yeah.
So say for example, if they go on LinkedIn into a group and they see somebody asking about what does SEO do for my website.